So this is Whitaker and Whitaker represents a new chapter in my life as a grandfather. And if you don't know, he's going to have, what are you going to have?
A sister.
Yeah, he's going to have a little sister pretty soon. And while we would love to be in person with you, that we realize it's not really ideal to talk on Zoom rather than in person, we'd love to do that. And hopefully there's a time we'll be able to get together in person before too long. But with the ups and downs of the laws and those uncertainties, and just consideration for everyone's safety and the COVID precautions and up and down with smoke and so forth, we decided that it's better to speak to you sooner than later. So after a lot of prayer and discernment, both individually and collectively, the core leadership of New Life feels that we have some clarity on the future direction of New Life Christian Fellowship. And life is full of seasons and chapters, and we feel like that at this point, we've accomplished what God has asked us to do in this chapter of New Life. And we've come to the end of this particular chapter. And we are in the beginning stages of figuring out what it looks like to end this season well, so that each of us can move forward into the next chapter that God is writing into our lives. And what's most important to remember is that at this moment we are New Life Ohana. We're not just an organization, we're family, we're community, we're friends. And while the formal institution of New Life Fellowship is going to be shutting down, our relationships are not. And we all know that Ohana means family, and family means nobody gets left behind. I've asked the trustees to take part in sharing with you some of the details behind how we came to this decision, and we're going from here. But I want you to hear right up front, we're continuing on Sundays, probably for the next couple of months, but more detail here to come.
Hey folks, why now? In order to understand where we are now, it's important to look back at New Life's earliest days on this property. When we were first invited to join the wonderful family that was Chestnut Avenue Baptist Church, we had a sense that we were being called to pastorally care for the people who were here and to steward the gift of this unique property. In those early years, we shared joy and grief, celebration and loss, blessings and pain. And while we'll always have fond memories of the incredible men and women of Chestnut Baptist, the most significant impact they made on us was the legacy of passing on God's property for God's continued kingdom purposes.
One of the main reasons we came to Chestnut was we really wanted to help them fulfill God's plan for the campus. It was important to that congregation that they wanted it to be a vibrant, thriving campus, and they really felt we were equipped to do that. Now we're at a point where it's kind of our time to look at that and to say, is it time for New Life to give the campus to a church just like we were 10 years ago, and help make sure that the campus is a kingdom place for God. The time to set up a succession plan is while you're healthy, not when you're in a panic and not when you're stressed out, but when you really have all the ability to say, what do we want this to look like and how do we want to move forward? And we really feel now is the time to do that. We're in a great place, we have great leadership, but we really feel led to say now is the time to bring in another church that can be vibrant and move forward with God's purpose on our campus. So now we feel we're faithfully listening to God and moving on a path that we believe is His wishes. So it's now time for us to have a plan that says we're going to give the property to a new church, a new thriving younger church, and allow them to thrive and to continue what Chestnut started out with years ago and what we were able to keep on that journey, and for the next church to continue that journey. So we're excited about the future of the campus and where it's going to go.
Good morning, New Life family. It is Sharon Wood, and I'm happy to see you. And I just have a few words I'd like to share with you. When New Life first considered coming over to the property on Chestnut Avenue, the New Life leadership had met with the leadership of Chestnut Community Church a few times. And at that time, across the board, no one from New Life felt compelled to come over. But this group, they were not only lovely and kind and wonderful, but they were also incredibly tenacious, and they just would not give up. So I remember one day Martha and Phil, they were going to have one last meeting with these the folks from Chestnut. And Phil and Martha came back and they said, it just feels like we're going to be out of God's will for what he has for us if we don't go. I mean, they're not going to make it if we don't go. And that was a game changer for us. And God, I think, showed us in that time that he had a mission for the people of New Life. And it was a mission on this particular property with these particular people at this particular time. So we were obedient and we followed his call and moved over to our new location with our new family. And family it was. To this day, man, I have really wonderful memories and an immense amount of respect and love and fondness for the saints of Chestnut Avenue Community Church. They were the saints that came before us. And for those of you that didn't get to know this group, you would have just loved them. And not only were they wonderful people, they set a really great example for us because they were faithful and they were faithful to the end. They stayed faithful to God. They stayed faithful to one another and how they loved each other and how they looked after one another. And they were faithful to the property that they stewarded really well. And now that I think about it, that's up in and out. Faithful to God, faithful to one another, and faithful to the mission that the Lord had given them. And then what happened to them is what happens to all of us if we're blessed with a long life. They got to an age where they could no longer carry on the task of managing the property. So that's when they reached out to New Life. And these wonderful people saw this chapter ending for them. But even then, they continued to be faithful by blessing us, New Life Christian Fellowship, with both the gift of themselves and the gift of this property. And I think they did this because they knew that this property wasn't theirs and that this property is holy ground. It wasn't theirs any more than it's New Life's property. It's ours to steward for sure, but it belongs to the Lord. 3525 Chestnut Avenue in Concord, California is a kingdom property that has been used to be given, I don't know how many people, the opportunity to know real joy and freedom through forgiveness and salvation through Jesus Christ. And when I think about that, it's pretty incredible that you and I, the people of New Life, we got to play a part in this holy legacy, as did all the saints that came before us, and then as will all those that get to come after us. And after many, many beautiful years, we're hearing that our mission time here is coming to an end. That we've loved and led the people of New Life as best we can, and that we've stewarded this property as well as we were able. And that it looks like it's time to entrust it as a holy gift to the next group of saints so that they can fulfill their mission from God, their particular mission on this property at this time with a certain group of people.
Over the last 11 years, your authentic hospitality and faithful stewardship of kingdom property have afforded so many fulfillments of our purpose here. It took 8 years to pay off the mortgage, but with the faithful and generous tithing of the New Life family, we've accomplished not only that, but we've also made significant improvements to the property over the years. Your special offerings throughout the years have also supported ministries such as Living Water, New Day for Children, Compassion International. We've been able to help people within our own church family and in our community. God also used New Life and Pastor Art's connections to bring together a diverse collection of churches and ministries who have, and continue to, call this property home. Our Brazilian brothers and sisters, La Jornada, 3DM, Church Without Shoes, and Harvest, and many more over the years. Most importantly, we grew as a family together. We've seen children raised up in the Lord. We've seen our students grow and graduate and walk boldly and faithfully into the future God has designed for them. We have journeyed together, we have cried together, we have laughed together, and we have discovered Jesus' love together.
Yeah.
When we look back at all that God has accomplished over the years, it becomes clear to us that we've reached our own graduation point, and now it's time for each of us to walk boldly and faithfully into the future God has called us to. And as a church family, we have exceeded the purposes for which we came to this place, and now we're ready to give a gift we received, paid in full, to the next kingdom family that is ready to host emerging faith communities and carry on the work of maintaining a missional home.
What we want you to hear the loudest is that we're just beginning the process. We're not going to suddenly pull the plug. We want to give ourselves time to celebrate, give thanks, share stories, and honor those who need care, and adjust to a new reality. We want to encourage you to think of this not as a time of loss, but rather a time of graduating, moving into our individual next, closing one chapter so we can begin another. Our plan is to take the next 4 months and make this transition slowly, steadily, and faithfully. During this time, we will continue to host our Sunday services, the occasional virtual gatherings, and when loosening restrictions allow, live gatherings as well. Looking forward to that. We will create avenues to share stories, testimonies, and celebrations, and we will continue to update you on the progress we are making one step at a time. Most importantly, we will continue to walk forward in relationships as we have always done. We are committed to ensuring that everyone finds a place to land, that we leave a good gift for those who will come after us, and that we leave a healthy legacy, and that the entire transition is a healthy step of obedience that we are all able to take together as we are each released into the next chapter that God is calling us to.
Thank you.
Whether you've walked with myself in the New Life community as long as someone like Pamela Cox has, for 30 years plus, or as recent as Farai, after listening to our trustees, you can understand how and why I have loved serving here so long and with these people and with you. A wise man, a king, once said, "There's a time for everything, a season for every activity under the sun." And we are sensing that this season that we have enjoyed so much is coming to an end. And if there's one thing that I would like to plant in your heart as a seed that God has planted in mine, and it comes from the story that we often call the parable of the prodigal son, it's this: God is not done. Say it with me. God is not done. I want you to say it out loud. Hear it in your head. Plant it in your heart. And the next one is God has more. And you can trust that that is true. God is not through. Not with me, not with us, not with you.